Simon's talked about local regional consortia. I just want to mention some things that are going on nationally to try and address some of these issues and engage. Skills Third Sector I've mentioned is a new skills body that's been set up to promote the interests of third sector and voluntary sector employers within the system to make sure that when the funding is determined as to what is needed, that the third sector interests are looked at. For example, that volunteers could access train to gain funding is an example of the sort of third sector perspective we're able to influence. You may or may not have heard of 3SC Consortium, which was promoted by Future Builders and is a national consortium looking to deliver tenders, and they have a huge future jobs contract, about £20 million contract at the moment. And I think there is one representative in the region at the moment. We've applied to join the consortium as well. On the apprenticeship side, there's something called Fair Train Group Training Association that we're involved along with Skills Third Sector, Rathbone and a lot of other organisations. Vista, I think, is the other one from the southwest, in setting up a national association to get contracts for apprenticeships for third sector employers. And the reason I've got quite involved in consultations with the SFA and so on is because I'm involved with something called the Third Sector National Learning Alliance, and there's a brochure in your thing about this, which is we set up as a representative body to promote the interests of third sector providers within the system and elsewhere. And so, quick commercial break for the TSNLA because we're looking to recruit members at the moment, and more information in your pack. But I should say that one of the things about that's been quite good is that it has given us the opportunity to get involved with the Skills Funding Agency in particular and the Young Persons Learning Agency to look at some of the detail of the implementation. Because going back, for example, to that 51% rule, whatever the good intentions at policy level, quite often it's when they actually put it into practice that we find that we can't get into the system for whatever reason. And one of the things that we're working with them on at the moment is looking at fair partnership working, because if there are going to be more partnerships, if there are going to be more subcontracts, we want to make sure that those are done in a fair and transparent way. So we're doing a piece of work with the Skills Funding Agency at the moment, and a colleague of mine who runs a similar organisation in London is doing that for us. We're looking at the sort of things they need to put into the system to make sure that if they can encourage third sector and other organisations to subcontract to colleges or to whoever, that actually they're being treated properly and fairly, which is one of the issues that we've had in the past and continue to have at the moment. 16 to 19, I think if you like, the narrative for the third sector involvement is probably one of the easiest, because if you're going to make sure that 100% of young people are in education and training in some shape or form, then you're going to have to do something for the last 5%, which is different from what's been done in the past, because they have not engaged and they don't want to engage and it's not right for them. And I think policy level and within the YPLA, and I hope within local authorities as well, there's a recognition that the voluntary sector organisations have an important contribution to make, because quite often the solution is going to be local and holistic. Apprenticeships also, as employers and as training providers, the third sector has an important role to play. Informal adult learning, David's going to talk about this, so I promise not to steal her thunder. But hopefully what she'll say reflects what I say, which is that there's a need to look at partnership. They've explained the implications of this. And it does seem to me particularly we have a role to play around engaging people in learning again, and also in community activism. One of the areas of learning within informal adult learning is to get people involved in their community and contributing to their community, and it seems to us there's an important role for us. Skills Funding Agency, I think, is the most difficult one. It has the most demanding contracts, and actually they are not that interested as an organisation. They're not designed to be interested in who's in and who's out. Their purpose is to do what the government tells them to do. That's exactly how they've been set up. They will be run by the business department. And I think it's difficult at the moment to see exactly where we would fit into that. This is not trying to be despairing or anything. I'm just trying to be realistic that that's actually going to be the most difficult one to crack. And it will not suit everyone. And I'm already getting letters from people saying that we're having our funding cut. We've been working with these very, very deprived people and it's being cut and nobody's interested. And the sad fact is that nobody is interested, certainly not within the Skills Funding Agency. And that's not them personally, that's the way the system's been set up. Just talk about partnership opportunities with us. Simon mentioned that we've been consulting for a very long time. Train to Gain. There's been big funding cuts, 20–30%. That's what Gordon Brown was challenged about yesterday and gave a really poor response to. So we have no slack in our contracts at the moment, and if anything, it's being run down. We've had, we only had about 180,000 contract, which has been cut down to 130,000. We've got 2 or 3 partners already working in that area, and there's probably no money there for us or anybody else. Adult learner responsive, again, we've had about a 30% cut and a narrowing of focus, particularly around full level 2s, foundational learning tier and basic skills. But we will be going out to partners to sort of review our curriculum, if you like, for next year. And so we would be interested in talking to people who are not really involved in this, either myself or a lady called Janet Jonick, if you want to make contact with us. Informal adult learning, David can talk particularly about the arrangements 2011 onwards. We have, that is one area of funding which actually has been protected cash-wise, although we haven't had our final allocation yet, so it may not come down to that, but the theory it's been protected. And that is probably, at the moment, one of the more sympathetic funding sources, and we do support quite a lot of interesting versatile stuff under that. And there might be, again, some funding available, and again, we'll be working with current partners if everybody else is interested in that. The only thing I have to say about that particular funding is it only applies to Wiltshire and Swindon. We're not allowed to use it outside that area. The other funding we can do across the region or anywhere, but that is different